What if your character's greatest weapon wasn't a sword or a spell, but the stories that they tell? Meet the Skald, a class where every battle chant is a piece of living history. Unlike the bard, who relies on arcane music, the Skald draws power from oral tradition, buffing allies through sheer narrative force. Imagine guiding your party not with spells, but with the echoes and lessons of ancient heroes. And if you've ever felt your bard didn't quite fit the tone of your world, this might finally give you the warrior poet your campaign's been missing. We're going to deep dive into how this class changes everything from combat pacing to campaign depth. The official bard class in Dungeons & Dragons presents a specific challenge for dungeon masters and players who want to run campaigns in certain types of settings. The bard is designed as a jack of all trades, a performer, magician, support character, all rolled into one package. This versatility makes them fantastic in a standard high fantasy game. But that same versatility becomes a problem when you try to fit the bard into a world inspired by Norse mythos, historical realism, or low magic, gritty realism. In these settings, a character who casts spells by playing a lute can feel totally out of place. Don't get me started on a horror-based campaign where someone's happily and cheerily playing music in every fight. The bard's design leans entirely on arcane spellcasting outside of their skill checks, using charms, illusions, and enchantments to shape the world around them. Even bardic inspiration, their most iconic feature, is framed as a magical effect that's given through song or rhyme or the power of music. That approach fails to capture the essence of a historical skald, the war poet, oral historian, and cultural memory of their people. Their power, historically speaking, wasn't magical. It was psychological, symbolic, and deeply human. They shaped battles with reputation and memory, and words that carried the weight of history behind them. The result in this is a gap in party composition, a missing archetype for groups that want to support character grounded in grit and culture, not glitter and spells and persuasion checks on dragons. They need someone who feels earned, not enchanted. That's where the Skald steps in here, replacing the bard's arcane foundation with a power system rooted in story, tradition, and the spoken word. The Skald's core mechanic is something called the Battle Chant, a concentration-based emanation of narrative power that replaces traditional spell slots. Not entirely, though. Whilst the bard is a full caster class, getting spell slots all the way up to 9th level, the Skald carries a half-caster build, getting spell slots up to 5th level over the course of their campaign as they go from 1 to 20, and having a more limited spell list because their core feature is these battle chants. When a Skald begins a battle chant, they create a 30-foot aura centered on themselves, sustaining it through their concentration and their voice. They can start a number of these chants equal to their intelligence modifier every day, making intellect and concentration their key resources. This immediately changes the tactical play whilst initiative is up. Positioning matters. Allies must remain within the chant's influence. Thankfully, at higher levels, the chant does expand the radius to 60 feet. The Skald becomes a mobile anchor point, though, shaping the rhythm of the combat itself around them. They get to define the rules of the engagement, even in an ambush. Every chant has a mechanic that also tells a story. When you empower allies, you're not just giving bonuses, you're recounting the echoes of heroes who once did the same. The flavor and function marry together here with the intent of the mechanical intelligence base coming through narratively and with a lot of flavor to being supporting of the tactical mind that the Skald occupies in combat. A battlefield controller who is controlling the battlefield because they understand how to control the battlefield. However, as all good classes need, the Skald also has a weakness, a unique vulnerability: silence. Not just the spell, but silence in general. If the Skald is gagged, stunned, or trapped in magical silence, their voice fails, and their magic dies with it. Unlike a wizard's broken concentration, this feels personal. It's thematic and devastating. But it also has a creative streak hidden underneath, like a secret current underneath the waves of an ocean. It allows the dungeon master to give opportunities for the Skald to display their character's intelligence. The player gets the chance to display their character's skills by avoiding characters that could potentially silence them, making sure that they keep a extra knife in their boot to cut gags when the moment arises if they get captured. It gives the restriction of building actually opening up the realm of creativity for the player. Now, each chant that I've mentioned translates that narrative energy into distinct mechanical benefits. The Chant of Fury adds your intelligence modifier to yours and allies' melee attack rolls. Not just melee weapons, all melee attack rolls. That primal savagery from the druid is going to hit a lot more commonly. It's as if your story that you're telling guides their strikes. The Chant of Resilience grants temporary hit points to all of your compatriots, yourself included, every turn. The living strength of your words becoming a shield, helping them dodge otherwise dangerous attacks. The Chant of Restoration lets allies recover spent spell slots. Your story reigniting their will to fight and reconnecting them to the weave to draw that ounce more of power every day. Some chants last only a minute. Others, like the Chant of Clarity or Fitness, endure up to 10, aiding in exploration, investigation, or even tense diplomacy. Chants don't have to be specific poems, but the Skald commanding the presence of a court, engaging in that same tense diplomacy I mentioned, can be enacting his chant or her chant as they go. Each one reinforces the fantasy that your greatest weapon is not a blade, but belief itself in the stories that you're telling. The Skald's versatility comes from their ability to tailor their chants to the needs of the moment and the needs of the party. Do you have a group of melee fighters? Paladins? Lead with Chant of Fury. Make sure those attacks hit. Facing fast enemies or a chase scene, pursuing a bandit through narrow side streets, the Chant of Speed can turn the battlefield into a dance of blades with dashing and disengaging. This adaptability means the Skald player must constantly read the story of a fight. Choosing the wrong chant can leave the party exposed. It's not just a misstep in that moment, it's a complete failure of their leadership. That tension makes every choice, though, feel meaningful. Each chant changes how your group functions. The Chant of Speed, as I mentioned, allows allies to dash or disengage as a bonus action, reshaping the party's action economy, allowing your compatriots to close distances that would have previously been safe for the enemy's ranged spellcasters and archers. Chant of Fortitude provides complete immunity to poison, turning lethal swamps and venomous beasts from deadly threats into mere obstacles. I'd love to have that Skald on my team the next time I face a green dragon. A single Skald can shift from offensive spearhead to defensive cornerstone in seconds. Starting combat with Fury, then pivoting into Resilience to shield the team that's finding themselves under more pressure than they had previously thought. This dynamic flow rewards foresight, creativity, and deep understanding of your allies. Every decision a Skald makes isn't just tactical, it's curated. They decide which story of their people is told that day. Beyond combat, the Skald is a dungeon master's dream. They are built for narrative integration, living archives who make history tangible. Their identity as the keepers of oral tradition makes them natural bridges between cultures, communities, and generations. They carry dangerous truths, knowledge that rulers, churches, or guilds might wish to be forgotten. This can mean they are targets for an evolving narrative in the campaign. Perhaps a noble house was built on a false lineage and only the Skald knows. Or a temple buried its founding myth for nefarious purposes. Or a warlord who fears that their own story gets retold because they're trying to change their image in a bid for higher political power. To these powers, a Skald is not just a bard. They're far beyond a bard. They're a threat to the very organization of the system in which these other NPCs can operate. At level 6, we see this function mechanically. The oral tradition feature reinforces this role. By spending 10 minutes recalling the stories that the Skald knows, they gain advantage on any intelligence ability check. They're literally drawing their strength from their memory of stories. This can transform social and exploration scenes. In a trial, they recall an obscure but ancient and relevant law. In a negotiation, they can cite shared heritage between the warring factions. In an ancient ruin, they could interpret inscriptions and hieroglyphics that no scholar alive recognizes. But where this class truly shines is how it invites collaboration between player and dungeon master. A campaign with a Skald gives players the chance to help write the world's legends themselves. Instead of crafting a sprawling backstory that, let's be fair, rarely to never sees use, a Skald player can write the epics, ballads, and histories that their character then recounts in game sessions, the myths of fallen heroes that now shape the living world. These legends can influence factions, inspire NPCs, and evolve over the course of the campaign. It actually takes world-building pressure off of the dungeon master and rewards creative players who love to build lore, not just backstories. Perhaps you're a dungeon master yourself and are finally getting the chance to be a player, but you know the Forgotten Realms setting and all of the lore and histories associated with it. The Skald's perfect for you then, because you can recount the stories of Drizzt Do'Urden. You can recount the stories of Lariel Silverhand, and use those as your narrative influence. It's not pushing extra work onto the dungeon master. You simply let them know and have that conversation person to person that you know histories about the Forgotten Realms. Is it okay if you actually reference them for lore keeping purposes in your game and to expand the flavor of your Skald? Now, the dungeon masters themselves can easily weave Skald into their stories and worlds. They can be royal historians, war chroniclers, or the last guardians of a dying culture. They fit into courts, armies, libraries, and even legends themselves, wherever truth itself needs a champion. Their campaigns naturally center on cultural preservation, the rewriting of history, and the fight to protect stories from those who would see them erased. The Skald combines martial might with narrative mastery in a way that the bard frankly never could. Its mechanics make storytelling playable, not just descriptive. Each fight becomes a conversation between legend and the present time. Each chant is a living fragment of the myth that you are weaving for your campaign. For your next low magic, Viking-inspired, gritty realism, or historically grounded campaign, imagine what a class like this could bring. Not just more inspired and varied combats, but deeper meaning to the stories behind everything. Engaging with Homebrew like the Skald lets you break out of generic molds and bring an authenticity to your table rarely seen. If you want to bring that power to your own campaign, you can grab the Skald class on DriveThruRPG. There's a link in the description below that'll give you a discount on the Skald until December 1st, so that you can pick it up even cheaper while it lasts. Remember, because the stories we tell don't just shape the worlds in which we play, sometimes those same stories should have the power to shape the rules themselves.